Welcome to Civilization Stories, where we explore alternatives to history through the lens of the world's most addictive video game. Listen, you'd be hard-pressed to find a video game so engrossing that it's going to steal away my time from playing Civilization. But Old World has come pretty darn close. A couple of months ago, I got really into it and played a lot of hours while I was hooked. I want to share my story of my playthrough as Rome, as well as talk about what it taught me about 4X games and possible ways to approach victory conditions. Playing as Augustus, we founded our capital and gave it to the Julius family of statesmen. Our heir, Tiberius, we set on a path to learn tactics. We were surrounded by hostile tribes. The Thracians were the first to resist. Rome's second city, Capua, was given to the Fabius family of champions. They would keep the state of Rome secure. In the 13th year of his reign, Augustus's armies defeated and dispersed the Thracian encampment in the northwest. Rome's third city, Castra Legionis, was given to the Valerius family of patrons. They would help the culture of Rome and its people to grow and expand. In the 21st year of his reign, Augustus's forces dispersed a Numidian encampment, further securing Rome's western border. Traveling further west revealed a colossal, impenetrable mountain range that would keep the Roman people secure from other tribes and raiders further west. After 23 years on the throne, Augustus journeyed to the Elysian fields. His son, Tiberius, aged 33, took the throne. That same year, Tiberius's Gallic wife, Rufina, gave birth to a baby girl, securing the family's future on the throne. In the 7th year of his reign, Tiberius began to assert his authority over the lands around Rome, dispersing barbarian clans in the north. After ruling Rome for 10 years, Tiberius founded his first city, Bononia, giving it to the Julius family to administer. As Princess Rufina grew, it was decided that she would study philosophy. That same year, Tiberius and his wife adopted a small boy, raising him as their own. He would become Duke Nonus. After 15 years on the throne, Tiberius continued his campaign of subduing the hostile tribes of the north by dispersing another barbarian encampment. In the 18th year of his reign, Tiberius founded his second city, Salona, and handed its administration over to the Valerius family. When Duke Nonus turned 10, it was decided that he would go into the world to learn tactics and become a warrior of Rome. Across the mountains to the west, scouts brought back word that Egypt and Hatti were at war. Well protected by natural barriers, Roman forces were free to liberate city sites occupied by lesser nations, like the Danes. In the 27th year of his reign, seeking to expand the borders of the Roman world, Tiberius declared war on his wife Rufina's people, the Gauls. The adopted Prince Nonus, who had risen to become heir to the throne, died suddenly in the 29th year of his father's reign. Once again, it placed daughter Rufina as heir to the Roman crown. Continuing his mission of subduing tribes in the north, Tiberius's armies cleared another Gallic stronghold. In the 32nd year of his reign, Tiberius brought glory to the Roman people when workers completed the Hanging Gardens on the outskirts of the capital. After 34 years on the throne, Tiberius's rule of Rome came to an end and the crown passed to his daughter Rufina. In the 3rd year of her reign, continuing the work of her father, Queen Rufina completed ambitions for Rome by founding her first city, Lentia. In the 7th year of her reign, Queen Rufina completed another of her father's ambitions, bringing Rome to 5 of 10 completed ambitions after just 64 years. Grandpa Augustus would have been proud. 2 years later, Rufina completed the last of the projects left to her by her father when workers completed the museum in the capital. The feat led to scholars asserting that Rome were now the dominant force in the Old World. In the 10th year of her reign, Rufina continued to push Rome's borders to the northeast by dispersing a Danish encampment. 1 year later, Rufina founded her second city, Vesontio. As a half-Gallic queen, it hurt to be at war with her own people. But Rufina was, first, a dedicated servant of Rome and dispersed a Gallic encampment in the 16th year of her reign, further pushing the borders of Rome eastward. Rufina then founded her third city, Viminacium, over the ruins of the Gallic stronghold. In the 20th year of her reign, Rufina's soldiers dispatched yet another Gallic encampment, ending their threat once and for all. The entirety of Gaul, her people, was now Roman. After 23 years on the throne, at age 56, Queen Rufina had yet to conceive an heir to the Roman throne. That year, Aulus, her husband, died in office. The line of Augustus looked to be coming to an end. What would happen to the Roman succession once Rufina's time had come? That year, when her soldiers defeated the last of the Gallic barbarians, Rufina's legitimacy climbed to new heights, earning her the title Rufina the Lion. The next year, to celebrate her silver jubilee, Rufena further cemented her greatness as builders of Rome completed the Kothon along the shores by the capital. To further celebrate her greatness, she founded her fourth city, Mogontiacum. Rome's hegemony over the east was unquestioned. They were protected from the nations of Greeks, Egyptians, and Hatti to the west by hinterlands, mountains, and unforgiving terrain. To the south lay Assyria, bordered by a narrow sea. In the 27th year of her reign, Rufena looked upon Assyrian lands as the gateway to further Roman glory. Roman troops began to cross the sea in anticipation of a future conflict. After 34 years on the throne, Rufena died, ending the Augustan dynasty. There was no legitimate heir to claim the throne. Sempronia of the Julii, aged 72, seized the opportunity to take the throne for herself and her family. As a result of this break in the line of succession, violent riots broke out as revolutionary Romans laid siege to the capital. Sempronia, though leader of the Roman people, was merely a steward for the state built upon the legacies of the Augustans before her. In the second year of her reign, Roman builders completed work on one of Rufena's great projects, the necropolis of Salona. Understanding the problem of a lack of a line of succession, in the third year of her reign, at the age of 75, Sempronia adopted the rising star in court Zamra, aged 40, and declared her to be the next in line of succession of the Roman throne. With Roman succession in good hands, Sempronia, understanding her role, abdicated the throne, passing it to the younger, more capable Zamra after just 4 years as the head of state. The reign of Queen Zamra had begun. Zamra's first act in charge was to follow through on Rufena's goal of greater glory for Rome by invading Assyria. In the third year of her reign, with the invasion of Assyria in full swing, news came from the west that the Hatti nation was no more. That same year, understanding the need to secure the succession of the throne, like Sempronia before her, Zamra adopted a female rising star to succeed her. This time, it was Phila. Looking for a future of family heirs to hold the throne, in the 5th year of her reign, Zamra approved Phila's marriage to Gaius of Capua. After just 5 years on the throne, Queen Zamra died suddenly. Ashurbanipal of Assyria came to Phila, the new Roman queen, seeking to end the war. Understanding her role in the Roman legacy and its line of succession, Phila refused. Gaius did not last long as Phila's husband, dying after just 3 years of marriage. Rumors swirled within Rome's tiny court. Roman builders also built the Acropolis, and with that, though many ambitions were left unfulfilled and still a few victory points were left to be earned, scholars deemed that Rome had done enough to secure their legacy as masters of the Old World, and the game was completed. The sudden end to this game with still so much to accomplish caught me off guard. I actually had to look up what a double victory was. Old World is a new game for me, which I am still learning, and as an old man who doesn't ask for directions when he's lost, the game's victory conditions are also something I am coming to learn and understand. Needless to say, winning in this manner got me thinking a lot about victory conditions in Civilization games and in 4X games in general. And I want to talk about that, but first let's talk about what happened to make this game turn out the way it did. One of the subjects that gets talked about a lot in Civ and other 4X games is balance, especially balanced starts. For anyone interested in the idea of balance in Civ games, Suede came out with a video about this very subject a couple of weeks ago, and he makes some interesting points. I'll leave a link in the description. I want to hit on a couple of points he mentions because they are relevant here to the game I played of Old World. The first is the idea of having imbalanced starts, but games providing players with means to overcome those imbalanced starts. The other point Suede makes is that one of the great joys of many 4X games is flipping one's disadvantage into victory, with his underlying point being that imbalanced starts are actually what makes games like Civ fun, at least in single-player mode. There is a randomness to starts that is just part and parcel of map generation algorithms in these games. In the case of Rome here, I had an imbalanced start, but one that worked out in my favor. The way Old World works with minor tribes stationed between larger nations whose lands are up for grabs, with the great mountainous divide and snowy hinterlands that divided my lands from 3 other great nations, it meant that Rome was allowed to eliminate those smaller tribes without interference. In the process, Rome was free to grow into the largest nation without the threat of being seriously invaded by one of the larger nations. So, in my case, instead of overcoming an imbalanced start in which I had to dig my way out, I simply rode along the highway that was created for me. Did this diminish my fun of playing in any way? No. I had a great time. In fact, having some sense of safety from my neighbors allowed me to focus on other pursuits like generating large resource stockpiles and building wonders, which I am normally too pressed to do as I am busy recruiting military units in defense of my empire. The net effect of this safety and my focus on alternative paths to victory beyond conquest was that I found myself accumulating victory points in new and unique ways. And as I learn about how Old World calculates victory points, I continually ask myself, what does or what should victory look like? One of the things Old World does exceedingly well is it keeps you pushing until the very end. A single turn is often far more meaningful in the later stages of the game than they are in Civ, and there is little hammering of the spacebar just to get to the next turn. What Civ community members often complain about as one of Civ's enduring weaknesses is late game fatigue, where the game is already won, but there is the slog of grinding to that final turn where victory is at long last achieved. In the case of double victory, what it meant was that I had accumulated enough points relative to the other nations that my path to victory was inevitable. When a player's victory is inevitable, should they not be given the choice to claim victory? It's essentially a mercy rule. When your kid's team is beating another team 20-0, do you play to the last out and allow one team to go on to win 100-0? No. When a score is that lopsided, you break for lemonade. In the case of Old World, my 40 of 43 victory points was sufficient over Greece's 20, Rome's closest challenger, to suggest that were the game simply to continue, Rome's eventual victory was just a formality. So what does this all mean for Civ? When talking about moving forward and engaging players in Civ 7 and ways to improve immersion, I think there is a lot to learn from Old World about how to tinker and tailor the game for players looking for a more immersive experience. Exploring basing the game on a victory points option makes a lot of sense, especially when it comes to Civ developers' original stated goal of coaxing players into completing more games. In order to demonstrate how I think this could benefit Civ games, I need to take a quick look back at what was originally done to address these concerns, what didn't work about them, and what changes Firaxis tried to make to address what didn't work. First, the intent of almost every game system in Civ 7, from Civ switching to the ages and legacy paths, were all designed hoping to keep players interested until the very end. Instead, they created a whole host of problems, including breaking immersion and the homework feeling. Firaxis' solution was to build greater continuity and give players more options to design their games by toggling on and off these game mechanics that didn't work for players. These changes did little to solve the problem of keeping players invested until the end of a tough game. Games, even on the highest difficulty, remained too easy, the path through the game was still samey and on rails, and the late game still felt like a meaningless slog with few impactful decisions and too many meaningless clicks. The major difference between achieving victory in Civ versus Old World is, in Civ you can pick a rail and ride like a Shinkansen without bothering to even look at the scenery if you want, and ignoring a lot of what's going on. In Old World, almost everything you do from turn 1 to the last has some meaning. Just the incentive to explore the map gets players that little bit closer to their goal. One year in my fantasy hockey league, one of my friends took home the championship by 1/4 of a point earned from a blocked shot. Sometimes the margins are so razor thin that toggling that kind of setting can be the difference between victory and defeat. It is incredibly satisfying when one small piece of minutia has that strong an impact. I think if Civ 7 wants to move forward in a positive direction of keeping people fully invested until the end of the game, it needs to take a serious look at how it defines victory. Allowing players to simply customize which legacies are important is a nearsighted step. In a good Civ game, we want everything we do to be important. In recent Civ games, different victory conditions made a lot of sense because the game was never meant to be balanced. Certain Civs and leaders had clear strengths and weaknesses. The terrain and resources within it still needed to be competed over, but players could always dig their way out of certain holes and address the weak points of their game by building against their weaknesses or by steering into their strengths. It is what made choosing to play as one Civ over another such a fun and fascinating choice to begin with. Civ 7 with Civ switching is characterized now by the downward slope or the 180-degree pivot. Decisions in Civ 7 are mostly binary in the name of the quickest path to victory. If it does not contribute to a victory, then it's wasted. Again, we want everything we do to be meaningful. A great way to do this would be to allow players to customize victory through points. For example, Let's imagine designers at Firaxis define a default point threshold based on all of the things you can do in the game. Let's arbitrarily set it at, say, 200. That's a lot more points than a standard game of Old World, but Civ plays over 6,000 years, so there should be a lot more to do. Now let's say you get 2 points for building or even controlling a wonder, 2 points for every city you control, maybe 1 point for every independent power over which you become suzerain, 1 point for every codex you display, 1 point for every city that adopts your state religion, 1 point for every treasure fleet returned to the homeland, 1 point for every 10% of the map you reveal, 1 point for every relic you unearth, and maybe 5 points for every legacy, crude spaceflight, atomic weapons test, railroad tycoon, or royal society that you complete. What it could mean is that instead of just clicking and racing to be the first to do one thing, players would need to strive to do a lot more beyond chasing one pursuit. Wonders built ages ago would have more weight that sticks for the whole game. Late game wonders, whose bonuses often don't mean much because they don't last for that long during the overall life of the game, suddenly become extremely valuable just for the glory of your empire and its pursuit of victory. This is just an example, and I have no idea if the numbers work out. But allowing players to set and adjust these point values could make the game even more or less challenging. And of course, if a player has accumulated 150 of the 200 points, while the next closest rival has only 75, players are given the option of choosing victory based on this condition. No need to slide down through the slog just to get to the end. And since the Civ community loves the ridiculous and absurd, having this option opens up the opportunity for a whole new set of memes like how quickly a player on DD achieves a double victory, or players showing off how they achieved a double victory on turn 10 with just 4 of 200 points. It can be something they have fun engineering through tweaking the point system, if they want. The opportunity to tweak the point system to make the game the ultimate challenge could also be there, like requiring an absurd amount of points that is only achievable by controlling every city on the planet on a huge map. In one of my previous videos about the changes made in one of the more recent Civ 7 patches, I explained how giving players the opportunity to toggle on and off certain core mechanics of the game did not unravel the frustration of those mechanics. I realized that Civ developers took a lot of big swings with the decisions they made, but the choices they gave players to address the problems they unearthed seemed like a bunt attempt. At the time, I even complained that turning legacy paths and their victory conditions on and off actually took away players' incentive to win. It was marketed as making the game more sandboxy, but what it did was made playing far into the game even more stripped of any meaning. I think offering players the kind of customizability to a point system that has them rethink what victory means in Civ could be a big swing that, even if it can't bring fans back for who knows whatever other reason, could make the game more interesting and worth competing in for longer. But let me know what you think. And if you like videos like this, help me out by subscribing to the channel. And most important of all, remember to keep playing and making your own civilization or old world story, your own amazing path through history. And I'll see you next time.